Intro to Black Velvet comes in on beat 3 of a pickup measure. So we have 1, 2, and then we come in, and it's triplets. So it'll be 1, 2, triple it, and it's kind of swung. So it's deceptive because there's a slide into the first note. But what I want you to do is just aim for that first note on beat 3. So it'll be 1, 2. And the lick is 2 to 4, middle finger on the G string, 5th fret of the B string with the ring finger, back to 4 on the G, then 3 on the B string with the index finger. We're taking that 4th fret of the G string, sliding it back to 2, open, and ultimately landing on the E note on the 2nd fret of the D string. So what that sounds like is, and then rhythm really slow. 1, 2. And then we have this groove going. And in the second measure, we have a lick. And all that is like a D chord, but it's just 2 strings. 2nd fret on the G, 3rd fret on the B string. No high E. And we're just hitting those 2 strings, and we're sliding up, and then hitting it again. Then we have another measure of the groove. And then the second measure, we have this lick. So it's 1 and 2 and 3. It's crazy. I think that's how he's playing it. So that's 5th fret on the low string, 2nd fret on the A string, open, and 2. So 1 and 2 and 3. But an easy way to do that is to go 1 and 2 and 3. So 5, 7, 5, 7. And then the last actual lick, we have another measure of the groove. 1 and 2 and 3. So that's 1. And then the bass lick, and then we're into the first verse. Verse is mainly just this groove on the C note. 2, 3, 4, and then there's this lick. So 1 and 2, 3, and it's basically just this, like a normal blues lick, but he's doing it with that D chord. And then you're back to the groove. And 2, and 4, and 2, and 2. And you stay on that until you go to the pre-chorus. So that's the first verse, just that one lick. Is pretty consistent throughout. It's basically the same every time. And it has a picking pattern, which will be the D string, the B string, the G string, the high E string, the D string, or sometimes the G string. then the B string, and then the last note is the G string. So D, B, G, high E, D, B, G. So ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-da. And with our fretting hand, we're playing a 4-string root major chord, and we have our pinky down on the G string. So like you would do an F, here we're at the 7th fret. So 9, 8, 7, 7. We have the pinky down on the 9th fret of the G string, and we're going. And we're taking it off for that last note. Then we move it down 2 frets. Exactly the same, then 2 more frets. And then to end it, we go and we kind of act like we're going to do that again, but it's just the pinky the whole time. And what actually happens on the record, I think, is like kind of spaced out. What I would do is I would start the picking pattern. And I would just build the chord up into the chorus. So the chorus, we have some options. We'll learn kind of a root position version first. It's A minor 7, or just you could do it like this. But I like to put my pinky on the high E string. And then a D, but with the G note on the high E string with our pinky. On and then off. Then back to that A minor. Then F. C, but I might make those smaller, smaller voicing. Maybe don't strum all the strings because it's really subtle, I think. Then back to the A chord. We do our D, sus to D. Then we have a C7 and a B7. And then we're back to our groove. Now the lead guitar might play. So that's like an A minor. You could do an A minor 7 like this, or pinky on the 8th fret of the B string, but A minor, and then like a bar chord D with the sus on the B string, 8th fret, and then off, then the A minor again, then F here, 5th string root major chord to the C here, back to A minor, D move again, and then I would do the C7 here, B7 here, and then back to the groove. After the first chorus, you're in the groove again. And there's a lick, and the lick is... Pull off, pull off. And then in the second verse, the main lick I hear is after a heat wave. I think it's heat wave. That's 7 and 8 on the B and high E string, and I kind of slightly bend that 8th fret on the B string when I hit it. And then off back to the groove. And the last little lick in that verse, I believe, is the same as the first verse, that same little slide off lick. The second pre-chorus and choruses are the same as the first. And then you go into a bridge, which has 3 separate little guitar solo things in it. So we'll look at that next. So after the second chorus, we have a little solo over the E minor groove to lead us into the bridge. The bridge chord, since we're playing a lot of solos, we're only going to get some of this stuff. The bridge chords, we're going to have this A minor. And we're probably going to still be holding a note from the solo we just played over that E minor. But that is an A minor on the bridge, and then it's a B7, but I often just play a B. Back to E minor, where we play another solo, and we do that solo. From there, we go to an F add 9. This is how I play that chord. So that's 8, 7, 5, 8. A string, D string, G string, B string. You could also play this chord and it would work, which is 8, 10, 10, 8, 8. Or, this is a really pretty chord. So that's 3 on D, open G string, 1, 1 on B and high E string. And then we have a C add 9, which we could play this. And sometimes I'll just get 3, nothing on D, open G, and 3 on B. But often, I will play the kind of that same idea that we played for that F5, or 3, 5, 5, 3, 3, A string down to the high E string, and then the band goes to a B, like a B7. But I usually don't play that because I'm getting ready to come in on the solo. And the solo comes in on the 4, so it'll be 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and on the solo. 4 and 1. And I do that with my thumb on the 12th fret, 4, and then I bar D string, G string, B string at 12, upstroke, slide off. So low E string, because the solo is over that E groove. So he hits the low E string at the beginning of that solo. And then we have that groove through the solo, and then we go into a chorus, and that chorus kind of starts our outro. Awesome. All right, our first solo is taking place over E, and I'm doing it in this position, so I'm sliding to 9 on the D, 7, 9, 9, and then I'm going 9, 7, 9, 8 with a slight bend, 9, so that sounds like. And then I do this little quick, because I hear that on the record, 9, or I think I hear it on the record, I'm getting old. So 9, pull off to 7, and then 9 on the D. And then we have this hammer on, and we're holding kind of a D chord, but I'm doing it with these 2 fingers. So that's index at the 7th fret of the G, and middle at the 8th fret of the B string, and I'm hitting just those 2 strings, hammering on to 9 on just the G string, and then I'm re-attacking that first chord. So far we have. Then we hit 9, and then 9 and slide to 7, to 5, 7, and then with our first finger slide 5 to 7. So. And then I hit a B chord, and then I go to E chord, and I just hit the low E string, and then we have another solo. Now, I think he's probably playing it here. But we are going to play it up at the 12th fret because that's just where I've always done it. And I think it sounds better and it'll be easier to get there since you're moving between these lead lines and these chords. So I would probably do that at the 12th fret. So that little second solo break, we're going to slide up 14 to 16 on the G, 15 twice, back down to 12, 14 on the G. So, and then we're going to go all the way back up, 12, 14, 16, hammer on 15 to 17, back to 15, and then back down again. But then we go back up. So after we've gotten back to 12, we slide from 14 to 16, back to 12. So 12, 14 on the D, and then hammer on 12 to 14 on the G. It sounds like a lot, but we could also do it here. You know, or whatever. Wherever is the most comfortable is where to play it. I just like to find familiar places whenever I've got to move and I'm kind of covering a bunch of parts. So I would try that for that second solo. All right, as we talked about earlier, our main solo comes in on the end of 4 of the measure before we officially start with. Then we start with a open low E string, and then we're doing this kind of train lick. We have the G string at the 14th fret with our pinky at the 15th fret at the B string. We are bending the G string up, and then we're pulling off, bending up, coming down, and going to 12. So. And then 14 on the D. So, and then we have this lick. So it's, then we palm mute it a little bit. We got 14, 12, and then 12 hammer on to 14. Da, da, da. Then 14 again. Then 12, 14, da, da. And then the hammer on. So really slow. And then we repeat that phrase again, or the first part of it anyway. That's a cool lick. So we bend up again, back to 12, and then 14. Then we go 14, 12. Then we slide 12 to 14 on the A, 12 on the D, slide back 14 to 12, then to 10, then 12 to 14, then 10, 12. Really slow. Then we have this walk up to our next lick. So we're sliding in from 12 to 14, 12, 14 on the D string, 12 on the G string, and then we're into the next lick. This next part is pretty ferocious. We're bending up from 15 to 17 on the B, and then hitting that E note again on the high E string, and we're doing that 3 times. Twice, actually. Twice. And then bend up and vibrato. And then we're going to play this kind of slash lick, like from Sweet Child of Mine, or, you know, any of that kind of blues, rocky, solo stuff. We have 12 on the high E, then 15, pull off to 12, and then bend 14, and then 12, 12. And I like to think of these as 2 different licks, kind of, but you have to mash them together. So the first lick is kind of this. And steal that, because that's a good lick. And you can do so much with that. So that's kind of the first lick. And then the second lick is this kind of other classic rock thing, which is... So that's 14, bend up a full step, 12, 12, and then 15, pull off. And I picked that down, down, up, down, pull off. But you got to put them together. So the bend that ends this lick starts this lick. So that's... And then we have 15, bend up on the high E string, vibrato, back down in vibrato. 12, 15, pull off. 14, bend up and back down to 12. So that's... And that's still kind of that same lick. You know, we're just ending it different. So that whole phrase... And the timing is kind of just slurred out. Just kind of try to land in the right spot. If you land this, you'll probably be okay. The final section of our solo, we're sliding in on the G string, 14th fret. And then we're going 12, 14, 15 on the G. And then we're hitting the G and B string at 12 and sliding down. So it's... And then the next lick is... So slide in 14, 12, 14 on the G, bend up, back down, 12, 14 on the D, and then 12. And then the last little phrase is... So it's 14, bend up a full step, 12 on the high E string, the index finger, 15 on the B string, up a full step, 12 on the on the high E string with the index finger, and then we bend 15, up a full step and down to 12, slide 15 to 17 on the B string, and then hammer on 15 to 17 on the high E. So... And you're into the outro. So on the outro, you're coming out of the solo and you have landed here. You're holding it. And I would hold that through the A chord. A chord. And then I'd come in on the D. Then F. C. And then you have a lick. That's 7, bend up to 9. Maybe in between a little bit. It's so quick. Pull off to 5 on the G string. And land on the 7th fret. A note on the D string. So, C. Hold that through the A chord. Come back in on D. And then... And what happens here is we have a measure of E minor so that we can loop the chorus. So what I would do, hit that E note, and then your lick is... So we're bending 15 to 17 on the B string, toggling to the 12th fret of the high E string. Bend it up and shake it. Then you're back into the... We're repeating. And then we have a lick here, and you can do it here out of this box in A, or you could do it here. And then black velvet, if you please. And then we're just kind of riding that E, and what it sounds like the guitar is doing is kind of like a E major bar chord, but with that sus note on the 10th fret of the B string, and I'm not even playing the A string note. I'm just going. And then we take it back 2 frets. And then we alternate between going down and back up. And then, you know, if you want to throw some licks in there, it's all E minor pentatonic. You know, you can... You know, whatever you want. Hope that helps.